Hi, good evening.
Good, Harav, how are you?
Okay, thank you.
Baruch Hashem.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to Facebook here. Okay. So now we'll do the screen. Okay, so yeah, so it says in the Yosef that what we saw in the tour yesterday. אין לוקחים ואין לוקחים אותם ולא שאר ספרים ביותר מכדי דמיהם. If you're buying back from people these kinds of items like Tefillin, mezuzah, and Sefer Torah, we shouldn't buy it back from somebody like for, let's say, a goy, whatever, from more than it's worth. Only pay what it's worth, not more. So regarding that, says Bet Yosef, Mishnah Sham Mefaresh Tama Gemara. So it's a Mishnah over there. It says, explains the reason in Gemara. Shelo le'argil otan leganvan gazdan. So here's the thing, right? That we don't want to accustom these people to steal these items and then to come back and sell them to Jews. And this is the reason why we don't pay more than they're worth, in order to avoid that problem and the potential problem in the future. We say in the Braita, it says, that which we said that we don't buy them for more than they're worth, that means a lot more, right? What does the average tefillin cost today, by the way? Just right? Usually it can cost from about $800 to $1,000, around there. So what does that mean? You can pay a little more, apparently, but not too much more. That's what he's saying. אבל בדבר מועט יותר בכדי דמיהם לוקחין, so but you can pay a little bit more, he says. רבנו כתבו בהלכות ספר תורה, רבנו the Torah wrote this in laws of ספר תורה, סימן רפ"א, ולכן לא חשש להאריך כאן. So is this reason why he didn't write at length over here about that? He already covered it over there in the laws of Sefer Torah. So let's see the Shulchan Aruch here. Very good. So again, right, it says in Shulchan Aruch, same idea. En lokin tefillin mezuzot usarim min akutim. So he says when you buy these types of items, mezuzah, Sefer Torah, or tefillin from a goy, yoter mikdeh damehen, right? Not a good idea. Don't buy it for more than it's worth. So he says, right, but only if it's a lot more. Kadeh shelo le'argil legenavan or gazlan. And the reason is because if you buy them for a lot more, then they'll say, oh, you know, these Jews, they pay a lot of money for this. Let's steal some more of them, you know. So you'll have the racket going on there. They're stealing and selling back. In order to avoid this racket, this is the reason why we don't pay a lot more. A little bit more, it's allowed to pay. By the way, something interesting. Same thing also applies also to ransom, you know, for hostages, for captives. That we shouldn't pay exorbitant amounts, you know, to release captives. So we pay them a normal, you know, amount. But if you pay too much for captives, in the end they'll kidnap more people, you know. So this also like encourages them to do more crimes. So therefore, we only pay like a fair amount, you know, something which is the going rate in the market. Let's put it this way, right? Whatever that may be. Okay, so that's the idea. Very good. Let's go to Chet. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so it says, also, right, as we mentioned, they should only be bought from somebody who's expert, these types of things, right? As opposed to tzitzit, right? We said tzitzit you can buy from even a goy, right? Who's a merchant. And we mentioned that already a while ago when we were learning the laws of tzitzit. But when it comes to tefillin, and since it requires a high level of expertise to make tefillin and write tefillin, as we saw, right, the laws are numerous, you know, whatever. So therefore, right, you shouldn't buy from somebody who's not expert because it may not be on the level that it has to be to be kosher. So it says, right, Perek Tchelet, it's over there in the Menachot, Men Bet Amud Bet, tefillin shelahem, tefillin yesh lahem bedika, benan nikhin, in a mumche. So it says that tefillin, that you have to check it, and they shouldn't be bought from they should only be bought from an expert. Rashi explains, yesh lahem bedika, they have bedika, they have checking. Adam yachol levatkan bechaserot v'yeterot. So what does that mean? There's ways to check tefillin. What can you check? For instance, right, that if the words were written with the precise spelling, you know, not too many letters, not too little, the lacking letters, the full letters. But he says, nevertheless, even though you can check them somewhat to see if they're kosher, nevertheless, you shouldn't buy them from anyone except somebody who's expert. That knows that it has to be made with the proper intention, proper concentration. So therefore, right, don't just go and buy from some store, you know, because it looks like it's a religious place or whatever. That's not enough, you know. It has to be more than that. There has to be there has to be somebody there who can attest to the fact that this tefillin was made by somebody who's expert. Who it was, you know, who is it? Who made this tefillin? Where did it come from? You know, right? Otherwise, You can't just trust them, or they themselves know how to do tefillin, so therefore they're expert themselves. They don't need to tell you who the right whatever. And that's the idea. So the Tosfot, he says, Tosfot v'rosh the Rosh hikshu alav. They asked a question about this. Right? Upirshu hem ibud shelo lishma lo chayishinan. So they said like this, that we're not really concerned that it was made not for the sake of heaven, not for the sake of the mitzvah. That's not really the concern. So then what is? Everybody's expert in that. So then why do you have to buy tefillin for somebody who's expert? That means that he knows regarding the spelling, to spell everything properly. Full letters, lacking letters. Because we're afraid that he's not going to check it properly what he wrote there. And now it's a big headache, right, to open up the tefillin and to open up the stitches and all this kind of stuff. It's not easy to do that, especially for somebody who's not expert. Then to sew them again back. So therefore, right, person should try to buy from an expert. And now which we said in the last parak of Eruvin, Tzadik Zayin Amud Aleph, Amarav Chazda Amarav, right, this rabbi said, Alokeach tefillin min hashuk, if you buy tefillin in the market, at bodek shtayim shel yad ve'echad shel rosh. So what you should do is each box that you buy, check 2 of the arm and 1 of the head, or the other way around. Right, and make sure. In other words, do a test, to see if a couple of them, come out good. Then we assume that they're all good. So he says, So he says there he's talking about something else. He's talking about when he already bought them, so there's no choice but to check them. He bought them with somebody who's not an expert. So if you bought them somebody who's not an expert, what you have to do is you got to check them. That's what it says in the Tosefta Avodah Zarah. We only buy tefillin from somebody who's expert. But if you bought from somebody who's not an expert, what do you got to do? So if you have a few of them in your hands, right? Check one of the head, or shel yad, or one of the arm. That's similar is shown in the first couple, right? First pair. And also second pair, third pair, also fourth pair. So you gotta check, do like that, right? Do a random check there. That's what it says Rabbeinu Yocham. That's what it says also Rabbeinu. Okay. Who's Rabbeinu? The tour. But it says, however, the Rambam, Katav Perek Bet Halokiach, he says over there in Perek Bet of the laws of Tefillin, Halokiach Tefillin Mimi She'eno Mumche. He says if you buy tefillin from somebody who's not expert, you got to check them. So let's say you bought from him, you're like a merchant, a wholesaler. So you bought 100, 100 boxes of tefillin, right? Quantity. So you got to check 3 of them. All right. Or right, 2 of the head and 1 of the hand. Or the other way around. So if you found that 3 of them are kosher, 3 out of 100. So right, it's like a sample. You're doing a sample test. Right? So now we say, right, this guy is considered to be kosher. This merchant, right, whoever sold to you, because we see that he's right, he's selling good stuff, good quality, right, good kosher stuff. So therefore, we consider all of them to be kosher. So what do you see from there? You don't have to check every one. If you bought like 100, you gotta check like 3, and the rest you can let it slide, because we assume that they're all the same, basically. But he says if he bought them pair by pair, he's not a wholesaler, right? He just bought them 1 pair here, 1 pair there. So then you got to check, right? Each pair has to be checked because they're not in one box, right? It's not one delivery. Why is that? What's the reason why? Because when you buy one pair by pair, we assume that each one, right, is coming from a different merchant, from a different sofer. So you can't really learn from one about the other. It's not the same thing, not the same merchandise. And now what you said, right, that if you bought them pair by pair, they all be checked. That means every pair has to be checked. Once you checked, right, two of the head and one of the hand, or the other way around, so then if you have like a box, right, all that box is kosher. So it says the words of Rambam are, the source of it is in this parak in the Gemara, which is in the Menachot. Says, I don't know why the poskim left out this halacha. They didn't write it. Okay, interesting. Goes on to say, Katav Rosh B'Tshuva, says the Rosh in the Tshuva, Alam Mocher Tefillin, regarding somebody who sells Tefillin, Ve'amar Shehayu Shel Adam Gadol, Shehu Ne'eman, De'ed Echad Ne'eman B'Yisurin. So there you go, right? We just mentioned this. So he says, what about if you buy from somebody Tefillin, and he says, yeah, this Tefillin belonged to a big rabbi. Right, so definitely it's good. So the rule is, that when it comes to prohibitions, we believe one witness. We don't need more than one witness. As long as the prohibition is not assumed for some reason. So therefore we assume, right, that person who's very expert, right, big rabbi, whatever, he wouldn't give some, tefillin to be sold, which are not properly made. So therefore we assume that's kosher. Okay, good, very good. Let's go to Shulchan Aruch. Let's see what it says there. So it says like this, and as we said, right, the tefillin should be bought only from experts. That he's expert, he knows how to spell all the words there. Full, lacking, with vowels, without vowels, all these kinds of things. Make sure you know what you're doing there. And okay, so that's Het. Now we have one more Shulchan Aruch. Tet. So it says, what about if you bought from somebody who's not expert? So there he says, then you have to have them checked. You got to check them. Let's say you bought from him 100 boxes of tefillin. You got to check 3 boxes, right? Right, 2 of the hand or 1 of the head or the other way around. If you found that those 3 are kosher, so then, right, we assume that everything is kosher there, and also the merchant is considered to be good merchant. So therefore, everything is kosher there. In other words, all the 100 capsules that are there, all the 100 boxes, they're all considered to be kosher. Okay. Good. So then he goes on. And the rest of it don't need to be checked, as we mentioned. Then he says, but if he bought them like pair by pair, not in one big box, right? So it says, so therefore we assume that they were brought from several merchants, right? Not the same merchant. Bet shel rosh ve'echad shel yad. So then you got to check each one, right? Two of the head and one of the hand, or the other way around, as we said. So it's not that he bought pairs over here, right? It's like smaller groups, svatim. Like let's say he bought like 3 pairs, So then you got to check each one because each one is a separate delivery. It's a separate merchandise. So we don't assume that one merchandise resembles the other one. So each one has to be checked. At least 3 boxes there. Okay, so then he goes on. המוכר תפילין ואמר, a person who sells tefillin, של אדם גדול, and he says, oh yeah, these belong to a big rabbi, right? Something like that. נאמן ואינם צריכים בדיקה. So therefore he's believed. They don't need to be checked. So therefore, right, if a person tells you like this, kosher Jew, right? Whatever, tells you, listen, I'm not a sofer, but I bought this from, I know who the sofer is. I know who did this, I know everybody. These are reliable people, so if he knows where they were made and who made them, like, we can believe that as long as the Jew is a kosher Jew, right? What does it mean, kosher Jew? Religious Jew, whatever, right? Okay, so that's the idea. Good, now we're going to Yud. Now we'll go back to the tour. So it says the tour like this in the last line here. It says Tefillin she'uchzuku b'kashrut, right? That tefillin, which is assumed to be kosher, as we said, right? Because it was written by somebody expert, blah blah blah. And tzrichim b'dika, then they never need to be checked again, right? They're always assumed to be kosher for a lifetime, right? It's a lifetime deal. Le'olam u'b'shel tot matzrich lehu b'dika. But it says the Torah in the Shel Tot, right, which is one of the ancient books of halacha. Over there, he says they need to be checked pamayim b'shavuot, twice in 7 years. But he says the custom is not like that. Katav Rav Amram says Rav Amram afilu l'dared lehei shanim enam tzrichim b'dika. Even like 4 or 5 years, they don't need to be checked. She'avir shoret b'hem. התאפשות, אבל אם אין מניחן אלא לפרקים, צריכים בדיקה. Oh, so he says they don't need to be checked, but that's only if he puts them on, he uses them. So it doesn't, when you use it, right, it doesn't rot, it doesn't get worn out. But if you don't use them, you don't put them, right? One of those guys, puts his tefillin in the closet for 20 years, never uses it, right? He uses them once in a while, once a month, or once, whatever, God knows whatever. And then it needs to be checked. So it really depends on how he uses it, right? According to this halakha. Okay, so let's see the Bet Yosef on that. We're done with this tour. It says Bet Yosef. בפרק התחיל, it's over there in גמרא, בנחות, מן ג' עמוד א', כתבו התוספות, says תוספות, דהית במחילתא, it's written in מחילתא, נאמר כאן ימימה, ונאמר להלן ימים תהיה גאולתו. There's 2 different psukim with the same language, right? מה להלן בנחות, just like over there is talking about 12 months. עד כאן מגיד, right, מגיד, here also, מגיד שצריך לבדוק את התפילין אחד בחודש. So he says that teaches you that tefillin has to be checked every 12 months. Bet Hillel, that's Bet Hillel. Bet Shammai Omrim says Bet Shammai, and tzrichim b'dika, you never have to check them. So now he brings like a proof for that, right? A support. So he says Shammai Omer, says Shammai, Elu tefillin shel Abi Ima v'Yushalmi. He says, this is the tefillin that I'm wearing here. This is my grandfather's tefillin. I'm still using it, right? So he was using his grandfather's tefillin. Still kosher. Okay, good. Actually, I once saw my grandfather's tefillin. I saw it myself. I didn't use it, but I saw my grandfather's tefillin. And my uncle, who was his son, he kept it very dearly. It was very dear to him. So this is my father's tefillin. He would never let it go. He was very, 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 very attached to it. So yeah, and it looked pretty decent, not too bad.
Well,
Not
Rob,
bad for
wish
100
we
years
had
old.
that.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I wish we had that. Well,
I'm sorry. Why do you wish?
to have the tefillin of the previous generations.
Yeah, well, the truth is, honestly, if you look at the old generations and the tefillin that we have now, what you do see, is that ours are made like better quality than theirs.
Mm.
But what I mean to say is that in terms of the boxes, the boxes are stronger.
Hmm.
Today, the boxes are very strong because they use very thick leather, and also they have techniques today, to make them very, very, very strong. I honestly can tell you that these boxes are so strong. Sometimes, if you hit them with a rock, sometimes the rock will break and not the box.
Good quality.
Yeah, they're very strong. It's unbelievable, So whatever. But yeah, anyway, right. So he probably was using it, that tefillin. He had he was sentimental to him. Okay,
Right.
whatever. It looked pretty good, pretty decent. I must tell you. Okay, whatever. But the truth is, I've also heard from the Rabbi Danielov that there's also a lot of old tefillin which had problems, halachically speaking. Like he used to talk about the tefillin comes from Iraq. The Iraqi tefillin that he said that they were like very round, like a ball sometimes. So it's not kosher because tefillin has to be square.
Mhm.
Okay, whatever. So
Really,
yeah,
what if the edges? What if the edges are somewhat, they're not perfect.
right. So we talked about that. That it has to be a perfect square. The tefillin. So therefore, if it's not really doing so good, in other words, to your eye, it doesn't look like a square anymore, right? It doesn't look like a square.
No, that's not what I meant. Like it looks like a square, but it's worn off a little bit on the.
Right. So it's not. Yeah. That means that it's not a perfect square. I mean, I'm assuming that's what you mean. I don't know.
It's the color came off like a little
Oh,
bit.
okay. Then you can just repaint that. That's not a problem.
Uh-huh.
You can color it. Yeah. The boxes sometimes they lose their color. So there's a special. You go to the store. There's a special color for that. You buy it, and you color it. You can color it yourself.
I see.
Like a crayon. It's a crayon, not a crayon, like a magic marker.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
no
you can just color it yourself.
no special bracha or anything like that.
You just say L'Shem Kedushat Tefillin, right?
Mhm.
But the truth is, if you didn't say it, it's okay because, as we mentioned before in the halachot, that the tefillin, the boxes being black is not really an obligation so much. It's more like a hidur,
Right.
So even if it's not totally black, it's still kosher.
I see.
As opposed to the straps, right? They have to be kosher. They have to be black. The straps.
Right. And today it's two-sided black.
Right. If you have two-sided, much better. Yeah, it's much better that way. Yeah, much safer. So even though some people don't like it, but we don't listen to them.
Oh yeah, I totally like it. My previous set was white on the other side, and I always had the problem where it flipped.
Absolutely, I agree with you. There's always issues that come up, especially nowadays. You know why? Because there are a lot of shops that make straps, and the color is not good quality. It comes off.
Mhm.
This is very common today. It just like chips off, But
Right.
there's also, by the way, you can buy also color for that as well. You can color it yourself, But there you have to say the Shem Kedushat Tefillin. You can color it yourself, and the problem is that when you color it, it also comes off often, So it's a
Right.
big headache, It can be once it starts to come off a lot, it's very hard to control it anymore. Probably just better off buying a new one. Switching the straps, getting new straps.
Right. Did that too.
Yeah, in my days, it used to be like $50, the straps. Now they're probably more, God knows.
Yeah, I think I get sure like 100.
Yeah, double price. Yeah, why
120.
not? Let's double it. Why not? Okay. Sure. Okay. So yeah. All right. So anyway, right, as you said, that's what you said, right? That this was my grandfather's tefillin. And then I'm sorry, then it says like this. Yerushalmi, it says Yerushalmi, Perek Hamotzet Tefillin, this Perek, in Eruvin, Nami Tanya, Tefillin, Tzarich Lebatkan, Yubet Chodesh. Right, there's one opinion that says you gotta check them every 12 months. Divrei Rabbi. Rashbag says, and Tzarich, you don't need. Chol Hane, the Matzache Bedika Sfira though, so it's the ones that require that they should be checked. They hold בחוקת תפילין הכתוב מדבר. Where it says, right, בחוקת, it's also about תפילין, ולא קיים עלן האחי, and says, you don't hold like that. ומי הוא בשימוש הרבה, however, בשימוש הרבה, it says, המוצא תפילין, I'm sorry, I didn't say it right. שימוש הרבה, it says over there like this, שצריכים לבדקן פעמיים בשבוע. Over there it says you got to check it like twice in 7 years, just like when it says about mezuzah. So he says when you check the tefillin, you're not checking for like the spelling because that already should have been done properly in the beginning. What we're really trying to check is that if it got rotten, and old, worn out. That's what it says in the Rosh. So he said there is some support for Shimush Rabba. Since we said in Yoma and Gemara, the mezuzah nitika pamim b'shavah. Regarding mezuzah, it says that it has to be checked twice in 7 years. But he says there's a difference between mezuzah and tefillin. Why is that? Right? I can tell you, right? The reason is because that the mezuzah is open, right? So the air gets in. And the tefillin is closed, so it's like airtight. We talked about that before. But anyway, right? It says the Rambam Katab says the Rambam Perek Bet Dafilu Achar Kama Shanim. This is what he says. Even after several years, he says, and not tzarich lebatkan. You don't have to check the tefillin. This is halakha in the Rambam. Shekol zman shechifuyan shalem. So he says, as long as they're covered, the covering, right, is good. Harem becheskatan. We're not worried about it. We're not concerned. We're not concerned that maybe some letter got erased, or or got some hole in there. Right? So the Rambam paskins, they don't need to be checked. And by the way, we're going to see it's also in the Shulchan Aruch like that, same thing. That's the way paskins. But as we said, right? Some people have a custom to check it every year or whatever, once before Rosh Hashanah or whatever, all kinds of things. It's like a chumrah, whatever. But it's good to do that, but not obligation. Okay, so anyway, right? Hillel used to say, "Eru Michel Avi Ima." Right? He also said, right? This is my grandmother's, my grandfather's tefillin. Ad Kaneshano. That's what it says there. It's in the Yerushalmi Perek Vat of Yeruvin. Last Perek of Yeruvin. Katav Rabbeinu Yerucham. Says Rabbeinu Yerucham, Shechen Yireh Ikar. He says that's the Ikar, that's the halacha. V'chen Pasak Beremazim. That's what it says also in this book. Rosh. That's halacha. That's a bit Yosef Paskin like that. So then it says, Umash Katav Rabbeinu B'Shem HaSheltot. That's what you wrote in the name of the Sheltot. The Parashat Bo. Umash Katav B'Shem Rav Amram. That what you wrote the name of Rav Amram. People the Arba or Chamesh Shanim, even up to 4 and 5 years. You don't have to check them. Looks like you have to change the language here. The language is a little corrupted there. Afilu le-40 or 50 shana. It should say not 4 or 5 years, 40 and 50 years, right? That's what it should say. Just like Hillel said, right, about his grandfather, Shekak katuv be'orchot chaim. That's what's in Orchot Chaim. Shematza betchuvat ha'geonim, that he found the geonim. Katav od be'orchot chaim. It says also further there, Ve'im eno manichan ela b'farkim, but if he puts them only once in a while, that's fitting, right? Not every day. בוודאי צריכים בדיקה שני פעמים בכל שנה. Then you should check them like twice in 7 years. 7 שנים. Okay, interesting. Goes on. כתוב עוד באורחות חיים. It says also further in אורחות חיים, בשם רב יוסף גאון, the name of this rabbi. במקום שאין שם מי שיודע לתפור תפילין. So he says in a place where there isn't anybody there who knows how to sew the tefillin up. ובדקן, and to check them. ויש אצלם ישנות, and they do have some old tefillin. יניח אותם בלא בדיקה. You can put them without checking them because we assume that they're kosher. הואיל ואי אפשר לבדקם, because you cannot check them. There's nobody there to check them. ולא לעשותם, also that you can make new ones. ואף אגב דמצווה כתקנה לא עביד, and he says even though this is not the best way to do in the mitzvah, שכך מצוות תפילין עיקר, שכר תפילין מצוות עיקר. But at least you're getting reward for putting tefillin, at least that much. Okay, good. That's the story there. Okay, good. Very nice. So we're going to see the Shulchan Aruch, and we're done with this chapter. So it says, tefillin she'uchzeku b'kashut. The tefillin was known to be kosher already, was established. And they don't need to be checked anymore. That's what it says in the Shulchan Aruch. Le'olam, forever, right? Forever and ever and ever and ever. But if he only puts them once in a while, then you should check them twice every 7 years. Very good. So says the Rama here, but he says, as we mentioned, right? If he doesn't have anybody to check them or to sew them, you should just use them without checking them. So what does that mean? Even though it's tefillin which wasn't used, every day, you can still wear them because you have nothing else. By the way, I did some research on this, like a couple of years ago. I think I made a video about it also. If you look at my videos, you'll find it there. That what I found was, the truth is, that even tefillin which wasn't used like every day, like only once in a while, it seems like nowadays they don't need to be checked. Even though it says in the Shulchan Aruch they should be checked. And the reason is because apparently, right, according to the commentaries that I saw, the poskim, they write like this, that the reason why it had to be checked when it wasn't used every day is because people left it open, sometimes they weren't using it, so the stitching was left open, so the air was going in, but nowadays we never open the tefillin, even if we're not using it. So therefore, since we never open it and the air never gets in there, so it doesn't really matter if he puts it every day or not. What difference does it make? Right? It's all the same. So therefore, the rule is that it doesn't need to be checked, even if he doesn't put it every day. Okay, it's an interesting idea. Anyway, interesting shidush. Very good. So we're done. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, we'll go. We'll start a new chapter here. Okay, so we're gonna do now chapter 40, Mem, Siman Mem. Okay, let's see what's going on there. So all the technical stuff pretty much we finished, this is just more like basic stuff here. Now we're doing right. So it says in the tour like this: Asuri tot tefillin ben habetzot ben batim, aval botar litotan bekisan. Right. So it says you're not allowed to hang the tefillin, you know, whether it's by way of the straps or by way of the boxes. So you know what that means? Like if you hang them on a hook or something, it's disrespectful to the tefillin like that. You know, to hang them. You know. But it says right that if it's in its bag, once it's inside the bag, you can hang it because that's already like indirectly. You know, it's in the bag. It's already enclosed, its own domain. Okay, good. So let's see the Beit Yosef here. Okay, so it says Beit Yosef, Perek Mishemeto. It's in Masechet Brachot. It's over there. Chav Daled Amud Aleph. It says over there. Amar Rabbi Chanina. Says Rabbi Chanina. Ani raiti et Rabbi shetalat tefillin. It says I saw Rabbi Danasi that he used to hang his tefillin, right? Metive, but they objected. Hatolet tefillin itlu lo chayav. So it says right, a person who hangs his tefillin, right, his life will be hung. So it probably means that he may he may die prematurely, God forbid, or whatever, if he does this. Lo kashya, right? So he says no difficulty. One is talking about hanging it with the straps. One is talking about hanging it with the capsules. The baya, or I can tell you a different answer if you want, a better answer, right? Asur. Whether it's the strap or the bite or the capsule, it's asur. Vechi tala Rabbi. So then, how did Rabbi do it? Rabbi Danasi. Bekista tala. He hung it with his bag. That's something else. The bag you're allowed to hang. Upasku arif arosh. Right. It says the Rif and the Rosh Paskin and the Rambam kishinuya batra, like the last answer. So therefore, the rule is that you can only hang it with a bag, not with the capsule or the straps. Okay, good. So it's not respectful. By the way, it says in the Talmud, you know, that there's another thing that a person shouldn't hang. You know what that is? You shouldn't hang something. So it talks about hanging bread, right? You shouldn't hang bread. It says that whoever does that it'll bring poverty to him. You know. So when you buy a loaf of bread, don't hang it off something, right? Your hook, whatever. It's also like disrespectful to the food. Okay. Of course, it's a different type of disrespect, right? It's not the same thing. What does that mean? Disrespecting food. What does that mean? The food is not holy, but since it's something which we need for sustenance, you know, especially bread, so therefore you shouldn't make a mockery out of it, you know, to hang it like that, right? But the tefillin is because it's holy. That's something else, right? But it's a similar concept. Okay, that's the idea. So then it goes on. Yes.
I'm sorry. How do you hang bread?
you know how people are very creative, right? What they do is they put it in the bag and they hang the bag off like the hook or the doorknob.
Okay, so you're not allowed to do that, even though it's in a bag.
Right. So the truth is, in a bag it's probably maybe better.
Okay.
You may be right. The bag may be better, but you know what it is probably here. We're talking about he hangs it like putting like inserting the hook inside the bread. Not really very respectful to do that, right?
Okay, I get it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, but the truth is that over there regarding the bread, we have to see, right? If it's also disrespectful to hang it with a bag, but here with a bag is okay. Why is that? Because it's it's in its own domain, so it's not really disrespectful like that. So maybe with bed also it's the same thing, very possible. But I have to check that. Very possible. Okay, so anyway, let's go on. So it says, let's see the Shulchan Aruch, right? We're done with the Beit Yosef. Yeah. So it says in Shulchan Aruch, Asur litlot tefillin, right? You're not allowed to hang tefillin, ben bebatim, ben beretzot, right? Whether it's the straps or the capsules. Aval mutar litlotan bekisan. But as we said, right, you can hang it with the bag. Once it's inside the bag, it's okay. So you know what it is, right? Like the young students, the young boys, when they go to school, right? They have these hooks over there in the school, to hang up their coats. So if it's already in your bag, you could hang your tefillin, like that, and that will be okay. But if it's not in the bag, right, then you shouldn't hang it like that. Okay, very good. So by the way, since we're talking about this, there's also, I can tell you there's a different problem as well sometimes. I see this so often, I don't know why people are not careful about it. I think I told one of you this already, that people have a tendency, when they put on or take off their tefillin, they let the straps go down to the floor, it's like it's sitting on the floor. It shouldn't be like that, right? It's just disrespectful to the straps. So you have to make sure, right, that when you're putting your tefillin on or taking it off, don't chuck the straps on the floor, like loosen, loose on the floor like that. You shouldn't do that, right? Put it on the table, put it on the chair, right? But not on the floor. It's disrespectful.
So what happens then if they do that by mistake, let's say?
What happens?
Yeah.
Are you asking about what if they get punished for?
Well, do you have to bury it? What do? Do you have to change the straps?
No, there's nothing. It's just it's disrespectful. That's all.
And so what happens if you disrespect? I mean, the sits, you're not allowed to drag it on the floor. We spoke about this.
Right,
so what happens?
like yeah, so it's a very similar thing, The tefillin is even worse because, as we said, tzitzit is not really holy, but tefillin is holy, So it's even worse.
And what's the punishment for that?
Oh, I don't know. Let me ask them. I'll maybe they'll tell me in a dream tonight. I'll let you know tomorrow. They tell me the information in the dream. I'll let you know. I don't have the information on hand. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, God bless. So, all right, let's go to bets. Let's go to bets. Yeah, so we have to do a tour over here. It says in the tour, right? Another thing is that when the tefillin is in the room, he's not allowed to have relations with his wife, right? Sexual activity, not allowed. So what do? Either remove the tefillin from the room, number one, or put them in like a double cover, right? Like a bag within a bag. That also does the trick. 2 bags. But it's only if the second one is not especially for the tefillin. Because if it's really especially for the tefillin, then even 100 covers is considered like one. So therefore, one of them should be not especially for the tefillin. So what's the solution? How do you do it, right? Very simple. You take your tefillin bag, right, which your tefillin goes in there, and then you put in the bigger bag, which is made also for the talit, right? So that bag is not only for the tefillin, it's also for the talit as well. So there you can put the tefillin, it's like, so it's a double bag, so you'll be all right. You know what I mean? That's the idea. As long as the second one, as we said, is not especially for the tefillin, it's also for other things as well. The second bag, you also put your talit in there, you also put a siddur in there, maybe, you never know, right? All kinds of things. Maybe you put a mirror there, to check your tefillin, how you put your tefillin. All kinds of things go in there. So it's not only for the tefillin. Okay, good. So, right, that's the story there. By the way, also there's another solution, which is just to put it inside like a closet or a chest. That would also be fine. Or drawer, right? You put it in the drawer. That's great, fantastic. Close the drawer, right, and you're all done. So you have one bag, right, and you have also the drawer. That's already two, right? Two coverings, so you're good. Or another thing you can do is to have it inside the bag and then cover it with like a blanket, right? Just a regular blanket. That's fine. That's also good. Yeah. But the truth is, that the language that he uses here, the Tur, it says kli inside of a kli, right? So in other words, they both have to be a kli. So kli is something which has like a receptacle, So we'll see exactly, what that means. So maybe the blanket is not really a part of that, right? Because it's not really a kli, the blanket. Okay, it's interesting. We'll see about that. Let's go on the Beit Yosef, see what it says there. So it says Beit Yosef, Shiotzi'em or Shenichem Kli B'Tochli, right? So we said, right. It says like this, Beit Yosef. Besofa Perek, over there in the end of the Perek, Tanya Bet Shammai, Beit Sheyesh Bo Sefer Torah. It says over there like this: a room which there's a Sefer Torah in there, or Tefillin, Asur Shamesh Bo. You're not allowed to have relations in there, right? With your wife. Ad Shiotzi'em. What you gotta do? Remove it from there, right? Or Yenichem Kli B'Tochli, or put it into a double utensil, right? Two utensils, one inside of the other. Amar Abaye, says Abaye, Lo shanu ela b'kli sheno shen kilyan, aval b'kli shehu kilyan, afilu asa mane kichad man adamu. So it says Abaye, right? That only applies to a kli which is not, right, especially for the tefillin, right? The second one, the first one could be, but the second one should not be. Otherwise, he says, even if you have 10, it doesn't help you. Okay, good. So then he says, Perish Rashi explains, Afilu asara maned b'kulam kilyan kichad man adamu. Umashma she'im shenei kelim lo avu kilyan tefe adif tefe, right? So it says, and implies that even if they're both not, especially for the tefillin, it's even better. That's what it seems from Poskim. But Rabbeinu Yonah says, but Rabbeinu Yonah seems to say, he says if no, just the opposite. That if they're not, especially for the tefillin, all of them, then it's no good, even 10 of them. So it seems like it says we don't really care about that, right? Whether it's this way or that way. So what does that mean? That as long as one of them is not for the tefillin, doesn't matter which one it is. The inside one, the outside one, it's all the same. Okay, let's see the Shulchan Aruch here on that. Let's see. So it says, Bait sheyesh bo tefillin, right? As we said, if you have a room with tefillin inside there, asur l'shamesh bo mitato. You're not allowed to have relations with your wife. Ad sheyotziem, you got to remove it, right? Or shenichem kli, or put it inside of a double kli. So, right. By the way, here it uses the word bait, right, which means a house. But the truth is, each room in the house is considered to be a separate domain. So therefore, if you have it in a different room, that's fine. Doesn't have to be. We're not talking about one big house, right? We're talking about each room is a separate domain. So you can move it to a different room. That's fine. Yeah, even though it's in the same house, you don't care about that. Okay, so then it goes on. That's when, if one of them is not especially made for the tefillin. Because if it is, so even 100 is considered like one. Haga says the Rama, it says if both of them are not for the tefillin, especially for the tefillin, or the inner one, inside one is not, especially for the tefillin, and the other one is the outside is mutar. It's allowed. So it's allowed either way, right? As we said in Bet Yosef, right? That as long as one of them is not, especially for the tefillin, it's fine. Very good. Okay, so we'll go to Gimel. We could do one more maybe. Let's see. Okay, so it says, ואפילו נתנן כלי בתוך כלי אסור להניחן תחת מרגלותיו. Right, so it says the tour. Let's see the tour first. Right, so it says the tour like this, that even if you put them like in two utensils, one inside the other, so we said that's okay, right? But anyway, it says you shouldn't put them under your legs, but under your head, like for instance, between the mattress and the pillow, mutar, you're allowed to put. Even if his wife is with him, no problem. Okay, that's one halacha. Let's see the Bet Yosef there. It says Bet Yosef, right? As we said, you shouldn't put it under your legs. This is also there from the Gemara. So why is it not allowed to put it under his feet, whatever, right, under his legs? So he says, that's like, disrespectful to the tefillin, putting it under your feet, you know what I mean? Not exactly the proper thing to do, right? You can imagine. But that which he said that you're allowed to put under your head, between the pillow and the cushion and the mattress, even if his wife is with him. So this was a question which was answered in Gemara. Even though that answer was refuted, it concludes over there. That's halakha. It says in Gemara, so how do you put them? What do you do? The best thing is to do is that it's put between the pillow and the mattress. Should look connected the Rosho, which is not like right under his head, It should be like a little bit off center of his head. But to put it right under his head is forbidden. Why? Because you're like pressing down with your head on top of it, which is not respectful, right? Why would you want to do that, right? Press down with your head on top of the tefillin. Not respectful. So what you can do is put it like a little bit, off your head, right, on the side, top, whatever. Okay, good. So I'm wondering, how did Rabbeinu the Torah allow ben kala kesed between the pillow and the mattress, without telling you that it can't be under your head? He didn't make differentiation between the head or not the head. Says Rabbeinu Yonah, the keneged rosho asu, that corresponding to the head, under the head, is forbidden. In any case, even if it's like a kli inside a kli, even if his wife is not with him, but if it's not corresponding to his head, not under his head, His wife is there with him. He needs to have a double kli. So he says that means that it could be one kli and then also the pillow, which is another kli, right? The kli sheni. If his wife is not with him, then even in just one kli would have it. I said between the pillow and the mattress. Sagi, that's good enough. So in other words, that would be already one kli. What does that mean? The pillow is the kli. That's how that comes out from the Gemara. He says, and afterwards he writes about Rabbeinu Moshe, right? Rabbeinu Moshe says, we're probably talking about the Rambam. His name was Moshe, right? So look at Tab Ken Shehu Lo Chilek. He didn't write this. He didn't differentiate ben Ishto Imo le'en Ishto Imo, whether his wife was with him or not. V'chol Inyan, it says either way, Amar shetzarich kli v'tochli. You still need two kelim, whether your wife is with you or not. The chumrah, to be stringent. How can I know? So that's what he says. But Nini says it seems to me though, says Bet Yosef, it's possible that since his wife was with him, Asi Karambam Mishum Achi Nakat Im Enicham Kli Utochli. So since the Rambam is talking about a case where the wife was with him, that's why he said you have to put a kli inside of a kli. But Enachi Nami, but he says he does agree to the Rambam that Nami Shikoshen Shtoimo, but he would agree that if his wife wasn't with him, Lo Bainan Kli B'Tochli, then you don't need a kli inside of a kli. So it says from the words of Rambam Perek Dalet, you had the lost fear of seems like it doesn't hold like Rabbi Yonah. So he says, as we said, right, the pillow is like one kli, and so according to him, you have to put them first in a double kli and then under the pillow. So in other words, the pillow is not considered to be a kli. So we see that it's a machloket between the Rambam, it's a dispute between the Rambam and Rabbeinu Yonah if the pillow is considered to be a kli or not. So I guess that would be the same thing, for the blanket, right, as well. Same idea. Okay, interesting. So let's see the Shulchan Aruch. We're done. All right, let's see what's going on here. So we're doing Gimel. Says Shulchan Aruch. It says even if you put kli inside of a kli, like two utensils, you still shouldn't put them under your feet, as we said, right? That's not respectful. Also, you can't put it directly under your head, right? Your head is pressing down on it. Not respectful, obviously. So it says, even if it's a kli without inside a kli, even if his wife is not with him, still forbidden to do that, to press down on it like that. But if it's not right under his head, on the side, on the top, right? If his wife is not with him, then what? You're allowed to. Mutar. But if his wife is with him, then you need the kli inside of a kli. So just to recap this whole thing, right? So what are we talking about here? Just let's repeat the whole idea so we don't forget. We said, right, that in general, if you're having relations with your wife in the room, it has to be double kli, right? Tefillin. We said that. Okay. And one of them should not be designated only for the tefillin. And nevertheless, you shouldn't put it under your feet. And also it says also don't put it right under your head where you're to press down on it. Disrespectful. even if it's a double kli and it's also the wife is not there, doesn't make any difference. It's still disrespectful. But it says, but if it's not under your head directly, and your wife is not with you, then you're allowed to put it under there. So what does that mean? You can just put it under the pillow without any kli. The pillow is considered to be a kli. So then he says, but if his wife is there with him, you do need to have a kli inside of a kli, right? Because that's due to the issue of the sexual relations. So that's the reason why you need it. So it doesn't help you, right? Otherwise, it's not going to help you. So the bottom line is like this, right? That putting it under your head is not because of relations; it's because it's disrespectful. So that doesn't make any difference whether your wife is there or not. But if your wife is there, so then you have to put it into a double kli because of the relations you're having with your wife. That's already something else. Okay, very good. That's it. If you have any questions, let me know. We're done. Chazak u'baruch. Be blessed with the world, health, happiness, all the good things. Shabbat shalom.
Amen.
A little bit far from Shabbat yet, but we'll do Shabbat shalom later in the week.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Okay, God bless you. Tomorrow, all the blessings.
Amen. Amen.
Chazak u'baruch.